Zara Kent didn't expect the first night of her new cleaning job to end with her accidentally knocking over a $6,000 art sculpture, and certainly not in front of the man who owned the entire building. "Oh my God!" she gasped, staring in horror at the cracked base of the oddly shaped glass piece. "Why would anyone put this near the edge of a table?" "I was wondering the same thing," said a deep voice behind her. Zara spun around so fast she nearly slipped on the polished floors. A tall man in a sharp navy suit stood in the doorway, arms crossed, an unreadable expression on his face. His dark hair was slightly tousled, like he'd run his hand through it too many times, and his jaw was set in a way that made her heart do something very stupid. "I didn't see you come in," she stammered, bending down to examine the damage. "I'm so sorry. I'll pay for it. I just started tonight and—" "Relax," he said, walking toward her. "It's just glass." "Just glass?" Zara blinked. "But it looks expensive." "It is." He crouched beside her, casually inspecting the crack. "But I hated it anyway. Looked like a melted jellyfish." "You did me a favor." She stared at him. "You're not going to report me?" He looked up, eyes locking with hers. "Why would I report you for doing what I should have done months ago?" She let out a breath, then stood up. "Thanks. That's really decent of you." He stood with her, towering over her 5'5" frame. "What's your name?" "Zara. Zara Kent. I'm with CleanPro. They just assigned me to this floor." A flicker of something passed through his eyes, but he quickly masked it. "Zara. Nice to meet you." "I'm Ian Davenport." She paused. That name sounded familiar. Then it hit her: Davenport Enterprises. The company logo was literally on the glass door as she walked through an hour ago. "You're the owner?" she asked slowly. "Technically, yes." Her heart sank. "Oh God, I broke your sculpture." He laughed. "You keep circling back to that. I told you I'm not mad. But if you really want to make it up to me—" He glanced around. "You can stop cleaning for a minute and sit down." She raised an eyebrow. "You want to talk to the cleaning girl?" He shrugged. "I just spent the last 10 hours in meetings about things I don't care about. You're the first interesting person I've seen all day." Zara hesitated. She did have 20 minutes left in her shift, and no one else was on this floor. "I guess I can sit for 5, she said cautiously. They ended up talking for 20. He asked her questions like they actually mattered: where she grew up, why she took the job, what she wanted out of life. And she, against her better judgment, answered him. She told him about her failed scholarship, how she'd dropped out of college to take care of her dad after his stroke, how she worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. He listened. Not in a polite, distracted way. Really listened. And then she realized something. Ian Davenport wasn't just rich. He was lonely. Over the next few weeks, Zara kept getting assigned to Ian's floor, always at night, always alone. And somehow, he was always there. Waiting. "You live here or something?" she teased on the 4th night, wiping down the conference table while he leaned against the windows. "I like the quiet after hours," he said. "And the company lately hasn't been bad." She rolled her eyes. "You're way too charming for someone in a suit that probably costs more than my rent. Would it help if I told you I hate suits? It would help if you didn't look like a GQ cover model in them." He grinned. "You think I look like a model?" She flushed. "I think you know exactly what you look like." Their banter became a thing easy, comfortable, and addicting. Zara told herself it was harmless. He was way out of her league, like a different galaxy. But he never treated her like she was beneath him. In fact, he started bringing her coffee. Then dinner. One night she found a box of her favorite donuts waiting for her with a sticky note that just said, "Thought you could use something sweet." She almost cried. A month later, Zara walked into the office to find Ian pacing the floor, tie loosened, hair a mess. "Everything okay?" she asked. He looked up. "No. I mean, yes. I don't know. She frowned. What's going on? I have this gala tomorrow, he said. It's for board members and investors. I need to go. I need to smile and network and pretend like I'm not suffocating. But I don't want to go alone. She blinked. Okay. I want you to come with me. Her jaw dropped. Me? Ian, I clean your floors. You also make me laugh. And think. And feel things I haven't felt in years. You're the only person I want to be around lately. Come with me. She stared at him. You want to take your cleaning lady to a billionaire gala? I want to take Zara Kent, the woman who makes my world feel less empty. Her heart was racing now. I don't have anything to wear. I already took care of that. He stepped into his office and came back with a garment bag. I hope you'll say yes. She opened the bag slowly. Inside was a floor-length black gown with delicate straps and subtle beading down the back. It was elegant. Classy. Expensive. I'm going to ruin this with anxiety sweat, she whispered. He laughed. Then I'll buy you another. She looked up at him, eyes wide. You're serious? Dead serious? Zara hesitated for a long beat. Then nodded. Okay. I'll come with you. The gala was like something out of a dream. Held at a private rooftop venue overlooking the city, it sparkled with chandeliers, gold-accented tableware, and a string quartet playing in the background. Ian stayed at her side the entire time, introducing her not as his cleaner but as his guest. People stared. Whispered. But he didn't care. And when he took her out onto the balcony for air, he looked at her with something that made her chest ache. You don't belong in the shadows, Zara, he said softly. You're the brightest thing in this whole damn building. She swallowed. This isn't my world. I don't care about the world. I care about you. He leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And then he kissed her. It was soft. Intentional. Like he'd been waiting weeks to do it. And she kissed him back. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm not going to pretend this is simple, he said. But I haven't felt this alive in years. Tell me you feel it too. Zara nodded. I feel it. God, did she feel it? And in that moment, she realized something terrifying and beautiful. She was falling for him. Hard. Zara woke up to a city skyline outside the window she'd never seen from this angle before. Sunlight poured through the tall glass panes of Ian's penthouse, casting gold across the sleek marble floors and sculpted furniture. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this world. Not in his bed, wrapped in soft gray sheets that probably had thread counts higher than her credit score. She sat up slowly, careful not to disturb the silence. Her dress from the gala lay draped over a chair, her heels beside it. Not a single moment of last night had been a dream. He'd brought her home in a private car, hand on her back like she belonged there. He hadn't asked for anything. He just wanted her near. Zara tiptoed across the floor toward the kitchen, where the scent of fresh coffee teased her senses. She turned the corner and froze. Ian stood at the counter, sleeves rolled to his elbows, pouring 2 cups of coffee. He looked over his shoulder with a grin that made her heart kick the back of her ribs. I was hoping you'd still be here, he said, handing her a mug. You drink it black, right? She blinked. How do you know that? He gave a casual shrug. I pay attention. Zara took the cup, fingers brushing his. She hated how easy it was to fall into moments with him like the world outside didn't exist. But it did. And she wasn't built for this kind of life. You don't seem like someone who makes coffee for guests, she said, trying to keep her voice light. You're not a guest, he said simply. Her stomach twisted. Ian, last night was incredible, but I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. He leaned against the counter, mug in hand. I don't. I'm not doing this because I feel obligated. I'm doing it because I want to. She looked down at the steam curling from her cup. You barely know me. I know that you hum when you're concentrating. That you hate fluorescent lights. That you're always 5 minutes early, even when no one's watching. He tilted his head. How much do you really need to know before you decide someone matters? Zara couldn't answer that. Not when her throat felt too tight. Ian set his mug down. Come with me tonight. Her brows lifted. Where? There's a fundraiser in the Hamptons. Quiet, private, nothing like last night. I want to spend time with you outside of this city. Somewhere the walls don't whisper about us. Zara hesitated. I have work. I already called Clean Pro, he said. Had them transfer your shift. You called my job? I didn't tell them anything personal. I just said I needed you available. They moved your schedule. She stared at him. You really don't hear how insane that sounds, do you? He stepped closer. Insane is pretending I don't want more time with you. Zara didn't say yes. But she didn't say no either. The car came for her at 6. Not a town car. A Bentley. When the driver opened the door, there was a velvet box on the seat beside her. Inside, a pair of delicate earrings, each one holding a single sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. There was no note. Just a gesture. The Hamptons estate reminded her of old movies, manicured gardens, stone fountains, and a house that looked more like a museum than a home. Ian met her at the entrance in a dark shirt and slacks, no tie. He looked softer here. Lighter. You're early, he said, offering his arm. So are you. I couldn't wait. They walked the grounds as the sun dipped below the trees, washing the horizon in orange and violet. Guests mingled on the lawn, but Ian didn't introduce her to anyone this time. It felt like he was keeping this night for himself. You always bring dates to these things? She asked as they sat near a low fire pit away from the crowd. Never. Not even once? I don't like distractions. She turned to face him. And I'm a distraction? The best kind. Zara looked into the flames, unsure what to do with the whirlwind her life had become. This doesn't make sense, she said quietly. I was cleaning your office last month. Now I'm here, wearing jewelry that probably needs its own bodyguard. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. I want you to have this. Ian. Just open it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she untied the string. Inside was a key. Silver. Heavy. Real. I don't understand. It's to the penthouse, he said. I want you to have access. I want you to come and go whenever you want. Or never. It's not a demand. It's freedom. She stared at the key. Why? Because I haven't let anyone in, not really, since my mother died. She was the one person who saw through everything. And now you're here, and I feel like I can breathe again. Zara swallowed. You're going to scare me away if you keep saying things like that. I'd rather scare you with honesty than lose you to silence. They didn't speak for a while after that. Just sat together, wrapped in the quiet, the fire crackling like it belonged to them. Later, when they returned to the city, Zara didn't go home. She followed Ian up the elevator to the penthouse, her thoughts tangled and full. He didn't reach for her. Didn't press. Just walked beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. You can stay in the guest room, he said, opening a door down the hall. Or anywhere you want. She stood in the doorway, looking at the space. It was warmer than the rest of the penthouse, soft tones, layered textures, the kind of room that felt lived in. Is this where she stayed? Zara asked. Ian's brow pinched. Who? Your mother. He nodded once. I'll take this room, she said softly. He didn't question it. That night, Zara lay awake staring at the ceiling, the key still clutched in her palm. The room smelled faintly of lavender, and something older like time itself had settled here. She didn't know where this was going, or what she was doing. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was treading water. She felt seen. The next morning, she woke to the sound of voices. She padded out into the living room and stopped short. A woman stood near the windows, tall and poised, with a face that belonged in glossy magazines. Her voice was sharp, clipped. "You're not serious, Ian. She's a cleaner. This is absurd." Zara froze. Ian stood with his back to her, tension coiled in his shoulders. "Don't do this, Celeste. She's not one of us. She's not a possession. She's a person." Celeste scoffed. "You think this is love? It's infatuation. You like the idea of her." Zara stepped back into the shadows, heart pounding. "I'm not having this conversation again," Ian said. "You're not part of my decisions anymore. You'll regret this. I'll regret letting someone like her go." "I won't make that mistake." Zara waited until Celeste's heels clicked their way out of the apartment before stepping into the room. Ian turned immediately. "I didn't want you to hear that." "She's right," Zara said, voice low. "I don't belong here." He crossed to her in 2 strides. "Don't say that. It's true. And you know it. You just don't care. I care that you're here. That's all that matters." Zara shook her head. "It's not enough. Not when people like her see me as a threat. They see you as a threat because you matter to me." She looked up at him. "And what happens when the novelty wears off? When the world reminds you that we don't fit?" Ian cupped her face, eyes burning with something fierce. "Then I remind the world that I don't care." Zara didn't answer. She couldn't. Because deep down, she wasn't sure how long she could survive in a world that had never made space for her. And yet, she wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. The rain came suddenly that afternoon, drenching the city in a heavy gray hush. Zara stood at the edge of the lobby in her worn flats, staring at the sheets of water pouring down over the sidewalk. She hadn't brought an umbrella. Of course she hadn't. She hadn't even planned to leave Ian's penthouse that morning, but the silence between them had become too loud to stay. He hadn't tried to stop her when she grabbed her bag and told him she needed space. He just watched her, jaw tight, hands buried in his pockets like he didn't trust them to behave. Now she was soaked in indecision and drizzle, trying to make sense of the ache that had lodged itself in her chest since overhearing Celeste's voice in his apartment. Zara turned to go back inside, but a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The rear door opened before she could step away, and a familiar voice called out, "Get in!" Her pulse spiked. She hadn't expected to see him again so soon, not after the way she'd left things. But there he was, leaning across the seat, rain misting the collar of his charcoal coat. "You'll get sick standing out there," Ian said. "Come on." She hesitated only a second before sliding into the seat. The warmth hit her immediately, the scent of leather, and something unmistakably him wrapping around her like a memory she didn't know she missed. "I didn't expect you," she said, tugging her damp sleeves down. "I know," he replied, closing the door behind her. "But I couldn't go another hour wondering where you were. I've been driving around, hoping I'd find you near the building." Zara stared at him. "You went looking for me? I didn't know what else to do." She looked out the window, watching the droplets race each other. "You didn't come after me this morning." "I didn't think I should," Ian said. "I didn't want to push you. But then the hours went by, and I realized giving you space didn't feel right. So here I am, drenched and desperate." She turned toward him, her voice barely above a whisper. What if Celeste was right? His expression shifted, not with anger, but something heavier. "She's not. You didn't deny that I'm not part of your world. Because I've never cared about that world. You know that." Zara shook her head. "It's not that simple." "No, it's not," he agreed. "But neither is this. What we have, it's real. And I'm not going to let someone else's assumptions tear it apart." She looked down at her hands. "I don't want to be another rebellion for you, Ian." He reached over, covering her fingers with his. "You are not a rebellion. You're the reason I'm finally waking up." They sat in silence for a beat before Zara finally spoke. You didn't tell me she was your ex-fiancée. Ian's hand stilled. Because I didn't think it mattered. It does. He sighed. We ended things over a year ago. It was more of a merger than a relationship. Our families thought it made sense. I tried to make it work. But I was miserable, and so was she. I ended it. She didn't take it well. She still thinks she has a claim on you. She doesn't. His grip tightened slightly. I don't want her. I want you. Zara bit the inside of her cheek. You say that now. He leaned closer. Do you want to know how I know this is different? I haven't looked at anyone else since the moment you broke that ridiculous sculpture. She laughed unexpectedly, the sound catching her off guard. You were so horrified, he said, smiling for the first time since she'd gotten in the car. I thought you were going to faint. I really thought I'd be fired. I couldn't have let you go if I tried. Her smile faded slowly. So what now? I have a place in Montreux, he said. It's not on any map you'd easily find. There's no cell service, no press, no expectations. Just a lake, a cabin, and space. She tilted her head. Are you inviting me? I'm asking you to run away with me. Just for a few days. No suits. No galas. No strangers staring at you like you're a misplaced accessory. Zara hesitated. I can't just disappear. Why not? I have bills. Rent. A job. I'll take care of it. I don't want you to take care of me. Ian met her gaze. Then let me take care of the time. Just come with me. Not as a guest. Not as a date. Just as us. She stared at him for a long moment. Her heart beat too loud in her ears. Her instincts screamed at her to run because this was dangerous territory. But her heart had already made the choice. When do we leave? That night they boarded a private plane bound for Switzerland. Ian didn't say where they were staying until they landed in a small private airstrip nestled between snow-dusted peaks and glistening pine trees. A sleek black SUV waited for them, and as they drove deeper into the mountains, Zara pressed her hand to the window, watching the world transform into something out of a storybook. The cabin wasn't a cabin at all, it was a glass-walled masterpiece perched above a lake so clear it reflected the stars. Inside, everything was warm wood, soft throws, and the kind of silence that made you feel like the world had stopped moving. You live here? She asked, stepping into the great room that overlooked the water. Only when I need to remember who I am, Ian said. I haven't been back in almost 2 years. Zara wandered to the edge of the glass. It's beautiful. So are you. She turned, heart stuttering. I mean it, he said. When you're here, away from all of it, you shine. They spent the next 2 days doing nothing and everything. They cooked together well, she cooked and he attempted to help. They walked along the lake, skipping stones and talking about everything they'd never dared to ask before. He told her stories about his mother, about growing up in a house where silence was currency and vulnerability was weakness. She told him about the first time she realized her father wasn't invincible. There were no distractions. No phones. No blinking notifications. Just them. On the third night, as they sat wrapped in a blanket on the deck, a light snow began to fall. Zara tilted her head back, catching flakes on her lips. I used to dream about places like this, she whispered. But I never thought I'd see one. Ian reached into his coat and pulled out a small box. Her stomach dropped. What is that? It's not what you think, he said, placing it in her hands. Just open it. Inside was a delicate bracelet. Silver, with a single charm in the shape of a key. Her breath caught. It doesn't unlock anything, he said. It's just a reminder that you belong wherever you choose to be. Zara blinked fast. You're going to make it really hard to walk away from you. Then don't. She looked at him, the snow clinging to his dark lashes, the firelight flickering across his face. I'm not ready to make promises. she said. I'm not asking for one. He brushed her hair back gently. Just don't disappear. Don't let fear win. Zara nodded once, her heart too full to speak. And when he kissed her again under the falling snow, it wasn't like the first time. It wasn't tentative or questioning. It was certain. And for the first time since her world turned upside down, she didn't feel like she was falling. She felt like she'd landed. The jet touched down just after midnight, the sky over Manhattan thick with low clouds and the soft orange haze of city lights. Zara stepped off first, the wind catching her coat as she descended the stairs. Ian followed behind her, his hand grazing the small of her back, not possessive, not performative, just present. Neither of them said much during the drive into the city. They didn't need to. The cabin had stripped everything down to its simplest truths, and though Zara's thoughts still tangled themselves into knots, there was a calm beneath all of it that hadn't been there before. When they reached the penthouse, Ian opened the door and gestured her inside. But Zara didn't move. I think I need to go home tonight, she said. His brow furrowed, but he didn't argue. All right. I just want to be in my own space for a bit. Not because I'm pulling away. I just don't want to forget who I was before all this. He stepped back, nodding once. Do you want me to call you a car? I'll take the subway. That earned a dry laugh. You're the only person I know who'd come back from a private jet and hop on the train without blinking. She met his eyes. I'm not trying to prove a point. I know you're not. He reached into his coat and pulled out the bracelet she'd left behind on the nightstand. You forgot this. Zara took it, her fingers brushing his. No. I didn't forget. I just wasn't sure if I deserved to keep it. You don't have to earn a place in my life, Zara. You already have one. She looked down at the silver charm, then back up at him. Good night, Ian. Good night. Hours later, curled up on her battered couch in her tiny apartment, Zara finally let herself feel the weight of everything. The contrast between her world and his had never been more glaring. She wasn't ashamed of where she came from, but for the first time, she wondered if love alone could really stretch across a divide this wide. The next morning, her phone rang before she could finish her coffee. It was her father's nurse. Is he okay? Zara asked instantly. He's fine, don't worry. But you might want to come by today. He's been asking for you. And he saw something on the news. Zara's stomach dropped. She arrived at the care facility an hour later. Her father was sitting in his chair by the window, a newspaper folded in his lap. He looked up when she entered, eyes sharp. You didn't tell me you were seeing Ian Davenport, he said without preamble. I didn't think it was something I needed to announce, she replied carefully, taking the seat beside him. He handed her the paper. A full-page spread showed a photo of her and Ian at the Hamptons fundraiser, standing close, his hand on her waist. The headline read, Billionaire's new flame, mystery woman captures Davenport's attention. Zara swallowed hard. I didn't know we were being photographed. Of course you didn't. That's not your world. Her chest tightened. I know. Her father studied her. Do you love him? The question landed like a stone. I don't know what this is yet, she admitted. But I know it isn't fake. He nodded slowly. Then don't let other people tell you what you deserve. That's not their decision to make. She blinked at him. You're not going to warn me away? I raised you to know your worth. If he doesn't see it, then he's not the man you think he is. But it doesn't sound like that's the problem. She left the care home with a strange sense of clarity. The fear hadn't vanished, but it wasn't steering the ship anymore. When she reached her apartment, there was a package waiting at her door. No note. Just a black box with crisp corners and a ribbon tied so perfectly it looked machine-made. Inside was a single item, a framed photograph of the lake in Montreux, taken from the deck of the cabin. The caption engraved into the frame read, No noise. Just us. She stared at it for a long time before calling him. I think I need to see you, she said. I'm already downstairs, Ian replied. He was leaning against the hood of a sleek black car when she emerged from the building, dressed in jeans and a navy sweater, hair swept back. He looked impossibly out of place on her quiet street, but he didn't seem to care. I didn't want to wait, he said. Zara crossed her arms. What is this, Ian? His expression sobered. Come with me. I need to show you something. They drove in silence for 15 minutes before pulling up outside a storefront nestled between a bakery and a piano shop. The windows were covered in butcher paper, and there was a sign taped to the glass that read, "Coming soon." Zara turned to him. What is this? I bought the space, he said. I've been looking for a way to give you something that's yours. Somewhere that doesn't come with my name stamped on it. She stared at the building. You bought me a store? I bought you a blank page. You can turn it into anything you want. A bookstore. A gallery. A cafe. I don't care. I just wanted you to have a place that starts with you. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. I don't have the money to run a business. I'm not handing you a gift. I'm investing in you. As a partner. She looked at him through the blur. You're serious. I've never been more serious. I don't want you to change for me. I want you to grow with me. Zara stepped closer. Why are you doing this? Because I love you. The words hit harder than she was ready for. Everything in her stilled. I love you, Ian repeated. Not because you're different from everything I'm used to. Not because you challenge me. But because when you walk into a room, I remember what it feels like to want something real. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you. She didn't run. She didn't doubt. She stepped forward and kissed him, right there on the sidewalk, her fingers curling into his coat like she never wanted to let go. 3 months later, the storefront opened as a community art space. Zara ran it full-time, curating exhibitions from local artists, hosting workshops, and building something that felt like hers from the ground up. Ian never missed an opening night. They didn't rush into anything. There were no overnight moves or sudden announcements. But one morning, after a quiet breakfast in the penthouse that had gradually stopped feeling like a stranger's place, Ian slid a small envelope across the table. She opened it slowly. Inside was a deed. Co-ownership of the property where her art space stood. I told you I wanted to invest in you, he said. Now I want to build a future with you. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Are you asking me to move in? No, he said, standing and walking around the table to kneel beside her. I'm asking you to marry me. The ring he held was simple. Elegant. A single sapphire set in a band of platinum. No diamonds. No flash. Just a stone that mirrored the color of the lake where they'd first let the world fall away. Zara didn't hesitate. Yes. Their wedding was small. Not because they couldn't afford more, but because the people who mattered could fit into one beautiful rooftop garden above the city. Her father walked her down the aisle, steady and proud. Ian waited with eyes full of conviction, hands shaking just enough to remind her he was human after all. And as they said their vows beneath a sky painted in gold and lavender, Zara knew without question. She hadn't just stepped into his world. They had built a new one together. Zara stepped into the art space early that morning, unlocking the doors before the sun had fully risen. The air still held the bite of spring's final chill, but inside, the warmth from the soft gallery lights and the scent of fresh paint welcomed her like a familiar embrace. She hung her coat, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, and walked to the center of the room where the new exhibit waited in soft silence. Local artists had filled the space with pieces inspired by rebirth sculptures molded from shattered ceramics, canvases painted over old, abandoned works, mixed media collages layered with stories of healing. The theme had been her idea, but the execution had surpassed her imagination. Each piece whispered a quiet resilience, and walking among them made her feel like she was breathing in the very pulse of possibility. She paused at a sculpture of a hand holding a cracked hourglass. The artist had titled it, Held Time, and staring at it now, she thought of all the moments she once feared she'd lost: her mother's laughter, her father's strength, the freedom of being in love without apology. She didn't hear the door open, but she felt his presence. Ian's footsteps were always calm but deliberate, like he walked through the world knowing it would shape itself to meet him. He stopped beside her without a word, hands in the pockets of his coat, eyes on the same sculpture. "I saw your name in the program," Zara said, turning to him. "You sponsored the entire exhibit anonymously. I wanted to see if I could support something without making it about me. You did more than support it. This wouldn't have been possible without you." He reached into his coat and handed her a folded envelope. "It's not a check, if that's what you're thinking." Zara opened it cautiously and unfolded the sheet inside. It was a signed contract. Her name listed as sole owner of the gallery's lease. She blinked. "Ian, I had my name removed from the deed. It's yours now. No fine print. No strings. Just yours." Her throat tightened. "You don't have to keep proving anything to me. It's not about proving. It's about giving you everything you were always capable of having." He brushed his thumb gently down her cheek. "You built this. I just believed in it." She stepped into him, resting her forehead against his. "I love you." He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes, the kind that only she ever got to see. "You've never said that before. I wasn't ready to say it until I knew it wouldn't change anything. And now? Now I know it only changes everything in the best possible way." They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in the quiet hum of the gallery, the world outside slowly waking up around them. Later that evening, they returned to the penthouse, their penthouse now, though Zara still occasionally called it the place, out of habit. Ian had suggested they host a private dinner there to celebrate the gallery's full transfer, just the two of them, no press, no guests, no obligations. She walked into the living room to find the lights dimmed low, candles flickering across the table set against the floor-to-ceiling windows. A soft instrumental played in the background, and the scent of rosemary and garlic wafted from the kitchen. "You cooked?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "I attempted," Ian said from behind the counter. "But I also ordered backups. Just in case." She laughed as she walked over and peeked into the pot. "You didn't burn it. I'm impressed. I had motivation." They ate slowly, sipping wine and taking their time with each course. There was no rush, no tension, just the comfort of shared space. After dinner, they stepped onto the rooftop, where the city stretched out below them in glittering silence. Zara leaned against the railing, pulling her coat tighter around her. "I've been thinking about something," Ian said, standing beside her. "Should I be worried?" "Probably." He turned to her, his expression serious. "I don't want to wait anymore." "For what?" "For the rest of it. The life. The future. I want it now. With you." She stared at him, heart skipping. "Ian, I know we said we'd take our time. But time feels different with you. It moves faster, but it also feels fuller. I wake up and the day already feels like it matters. Because you're in it." Zara swallowed hard. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying marry me. Not in a gala. Not in a cathedral. Not in 6 months. Now." Her breath caught. "I mean it," he said. "Tomorrow. If you'll have me." She didn't hesitate. "Okay." He blinked. "Wait, that was a yes?" "Yes." Ian pulled her into a kiss that tasted of wine and wonder, and for a long moment the city disappeared. The next day, they stood in a quiet conservatory in the botanical gardens, surrounded by blooming jasmine and soft light. Her father sat in the front row, dabbing at his eyes with a handkerchief he pretended not to need. A justice of the peace conducted the ceremony. No photographers. No headlines. Just vows spoken with trembling voices and hands that refused to let go. Zara wore a dress the color of cream and spring rain. Ian wore a suit without a tie, His boutonniere a single white lily, the same flower she'd once told him reminded her of hope. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ian didn't wait. He kissed her like nothing else existed, nothing but this breath, this promise, this forever they built from nothing. They didn't go on a grand honeymoon. Instead, they returned to the gallery that night, where Zara had left the lights on low and the final piece of the exhibit held time, waiting for them. They danced barefoot on the gallery floor, surrounded by art and silence, and the scent of jasmine still clinging to her hair. A year passed. The gallery expanded to 2 additional locations, one in Brooklyn, the other in Chicago. Zara curated each one personally, refusing to let success dull her hands-on approach. She mentored young artists, hosted school programs, and launched a scholarship in her mother's name for underrepresented creators. Ian, now semi-retired from the daily grind of Davenport Enterprises, spent his mornings at the gallery and his afternoons writing. He published a book of essays, quiet reflections on identity, grief, and love. It became a bestseller not because of his name, but because of his honesty. They never lived by anyone else's rules. Never tried to mold themselves into what others expected. Instead, they spent their days building a life that felt like art, imperfect, evolving, and entirely their own. One late summer afternoon, Zara stood on the balcony of their new brownstone and ivy-covered building tucked on a quiet street that smelled of lilac and open windows. She had a hand resting on her stomach, her body humming with a secret she hadn't yet spoken aloud. When Ian walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, she leaned back into him. "I saw you leave the appointment folder open on your desk," he murmured into her hair. Her breath caught. "You're not mad?" she asked. "Mad?" He laughed softly. "Zara, I've never been more in love with you than I am right now." She turned in his arms, eyes searching his. "Even if everything changes?" "Especially if everything changes." They stood like that for a long time, hearts pressed together, the future already unfolding around them like a new canvas. And when their daughter was born that winter, with her mother's eyes and her father's curiosity, they named her Leora, a name that meant light. Because that's what she was. What Zara had always been. The light he never knew he needed. And the love he never, not even in his wildest, loneliest moments, believed he'd find.